At least 10 individuals, including 5 journalists, lost their lives. Over a dozen were injured in a series of Israeli airstrikes on Gaza on Thursday, according to health authorities cited by Reuters. The attacks highlight the ongoing devastation in the region, which has seen intense military actions since the conflict escalated in October last year. In Gaza City's Zaytun neighborhood, an airstrike hit a residential home, killing 5 people and injuring 20 others. Health officials have warned that the death toll may rise as rescue operations continue and people remain trapped under the rubble. In a separate incident near Al-Quds Hospital in Nusayrat, central Gaza, 5 journalists working for Al-Quds Al-Youm television were killed when their vehicle was struck. The victims, identified as Ayman al-Zadi, Faisal Abu al-Kumsan, Muhammad al-Lada, Ibrahim al-Sheikh Ali, and Fadi Hassouna, were reportedly sleeping in their vehicle when the strike occurred. Other journalists at the scene confirmed these details to the CNN. Al-Quds Today television condemned the attack, emphasizing that the journalists were killed while performing their duty. The Israeli military later acknowledged the strike, claiming it had targeted an Islamic Jihad terrorist cell but did not provide evidence to substantiate the allegations. Meanwhile, the Committee to Protect Journalists, that is the CPJ, has described the current conflict as the deadliest for media workers since it began collecting data in 1992. As of the 20th of December this year, at least 141 journalists and media professionals have been killed in Gaza, the West Bank, Israel, and Lebanon. The CPJ's statement highlighted the extreme risks faced by journalists in Gaza, including airstrikes, famine, displacement, and infrastructure destruction. It noted that 90% of Gaza's population has been displaced and 80% of its buildings have been destroyed. This dire situation complicates efforts to document and report on the humanitarian crisis. The current phase of the Israel-Gaza conflict began on the 7th of October last year when Hamas launched a large-scale incursion into southern Israel. This attack resulted in the deaths of approximately 1,200 Israelis and the abduction of over 200 individuals. In response, Israel initiated a military offensive against Gaza involving intense air and ground strikes. Since the offensive began, more than 46,000 Palestinians have been killed, including over 17,400 children, according to Gaza's health authorities. The strikes have devastated Gaza's infrastructure, exacerbating the humanitarian crisis. This latest escalation now is rooted in decades of conflict between Israelis and Palestinians. The territorial dispute over Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem has been at the heart of the struggle. The conflict intensified in 2007 when Hamas took control of Gaza, prompting an Israeli blockade. This blockade, coupled with intermittent military offensives and resistance from Palestinian groups, has created a cycle of violence and suffering. The death of the 5 journalists on Thursday is not an isolated incident. On the 15th of December, another Israeli airstrike in Nusayrat killed Ahmed Al-Lou, who's a 39-year-old photojournalist freelancing for the Al Jazeera. The attack targeted a civil defense office and occurred on the anniversary of a similar strike that killed one of Al-Lou's colleagues. Such incidents underscore the immense dangers faced by journalists attempting to document the conflict. The ongoing conflict has had catastrophic consequences for Gaza's civilian population. According to international organizations, the destructions of homes, schools, and hospitals has left millions without basic necessities. The United Nations has called for immediate ceasefires for humanitarian aid to address the crisis, but the region remains mired in violence. Meanwhile, efforts to achieve a peaceful resolution to the conflict have been stalled for years, with both sides deeply entrenched in their positions. International calls for a two-state solution, which envisions independent Israeli and Palestinian states, have faced numerous political and logistical obstacles. The death of journalists and civilians in Thursday's airstrikes are a grim reminder of the human cost of the Israel-Gaza conflict. As the violence continues, the challenges of reporting from the region remains immense, with media workers risking their lives to document the unfolding tragedy. The international community's response and efforts to mediate the conflict will be critical in shaping the future of the region.